Welcome to Crew Life at Sea podcast. Here, we will share the skills you need to make your experience and adventure out at sea a success. Hear inspiring stories from experienced crew from all diversities. Gain knowledge and know your rights. Be part of the Crew Life at Sea. And let's welcome your host, Raymond Crystal.
Welcome to Crew Life at Sea, the only place where you can find useful information, advice, insights, and resources to help inspire you take that next step in working on a cruise ship. It's showtime! Always wanted to do that. It's showtime! Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's showtime. With me today, I have the one and only Martin Calvert. Is that correct?
That is right.
Yes. Can you tell me, Martin, how many years you've been at sea?
I've been at sea on and off about 14 years. Every time you have a contract, it's generally for anywhere between 4 to 6 to 9 months, depending on what you agree to do. You might be agree to do back-to-back contracts, something like that. So it's seen me through a lot of places over the world, and that's why I enjoy to do it.
Excellent. Yeah. But you guys are normally, I think, 6 months or something.
Yes, generally it's a 6-month contract, so there'll be 2 changeovers in 1 year period.
Oh, yeah. Can you tell me a little bit of how you got into entertainment and how long have you been involved?
Sure, yeah. I was at college. I studied diploma in performance art. I majored in drama and also dance and singing, had private lessons for singing, and I graduated. After that, I worked in a bank. And then after about a year and a half, I decided it was time to fulfill my dreams.
Yes, a bank.
Yeah. And then I actually started, my first job abroad was in a hotel. And I was a member of the animation team, which is a great way to gain confidence. It was great to try new things in performance. I had more experience from that than college, really, because it was a real life situation. You were doing other games and activities as well, interacting with the guests, finding out what they enjoyed, finding out what you as a performer enjoy to do. It was very tiring, but I don't regret to do it. I think it was a brilliant start, and it just gave you extra confidence for those all-important auditions.
When you mean animation, what do you mean by animation?
The animation team is the entertainment team that do all the games and entertainment, also the shows. You might do a show to playback. It might just be a visual aspect, or you might be singing live. There might be a simple or more an intricate dance routine. You might be alone, or you might be performing with others. Yeah.
What is your main job on board?
Well, I'm called a production manager, so I look after the company production on board. We're a team of 6 singers. Our agent, our London-based agent called Luna Rossa. Get in touch with them if you're interested to join a team of 6, where predominantly you'll be singing in the evening entertainment on board. We have just 1 show per evening. Generally on other cruise lines you would perform twice, so I enjoy to perform once. Our shows this cruise are at 9:45, and they vary from, tonight we have a jazz show, we have a Blues Brothers Soul Sister show, like Motown hits, then we do a classical crossover show, and then we have a musical theatre show.
Oh, that's very nice. Yeah, because on some ships you do 2 shows, like a pre-dinner and a after-dinner show.
That's right, and they could totally vary. They could be eaten almost every evening. It could be every other evening. It could just be twice a cruise. They would vary between which vessel, which agent you work for. It's worth doing the research to find out what you would like from yourself. Some people straight out of college really prefer to have as much experience as they can, and they enjoy to be working almost every night. Others prefer to be working every other night, or 2 or 3 times performance in a week.
Talking about the performances, what happens now when you guys decide to you get this gig on the ship and everything. How does the training work before you get on the ship?
Well, you're all invited together. For us, we're obliged about 2 months before, or even more, 2 to 3 months before, you have all of your musical scores that you look over. If you can read music, that's really helpful. You can practice with the piano your part. You also have a vocal guide that's been recorded for you, so you practice your vocal guide along with the sheet music, so you know exactly what your part is. Then you have to memorize it by heart, because when you arrive in the studio, you're expected to know exactly your part without to make an error, because there are 5 other singers singing a different part, so it's not so easy in the first instance to know exactly, to be really confident with your harmonies. You could have the melody, the third, the fifth harmony, or the cluster, so you have to remember all the way through what your part is. Not so easy, but it's a great challenge.
Yeah, of course. Just to clarify that we are talking about the singer description, because on board you get the singers, you get dancers, and on some ships you get some of them actually do both. But
yeah, that's
on
right.
these smaller ships you do both of them, right?
We do singing with movement. There's the call-up movement.
Kind of movement.
Yeah, that's better.
Working with other people in your shows, how does it work when you have to assign people for certain parts and positions? You know, do they do this on shore?
Yes, that's assigned by the director. So the musical director has an idea of what your capabilities are. So, for example, from the boys, I'm the tenor. There's a classical baritone, and then there's a pop baritone. So from there, we decided together what parts were assigned to us, and then if there should be any changes, we try to make minimal changes as possible. We just made a couple of changes on board. Just if the part's not right, for the sound isn't right for one vocalist and it suits the other one better, then that would be ideal to switch it around. But not too much, because the format should be kept as it's been scripted.
Yeah, and then you have to stick by that, right?
Yes, that's right. We'll have a lot of rehearsals to make sure that it should be as all of the rehearsals.
Talking about rehearsals, and rehearsals.
Yes, that was...
So with the struggles and the hours and the rewards.
Okay, so we started... It took us 3 weeks to put the brand new shows together, and we had 4 shows to learn. Our greatest achievement was we learned a show in a day, and then we performed it the next day for our director, and the director really enjoyed it. So we felt like we were at a place where we felt more confident that we could learn and perform a show the next day. The pace of the rehearsal that day was really fast. It wasn't with our regular choreographer. It was with our director and choreographer. So I felt like the energy and the pace was really picked up, and all really doing our best for that. And our choreographer did a great job with us too. It generally took about 2 to 3 days to learn each show.
So the choreographer will come on board just for a week or 2 and then teach
yes,
and then
that's
go?
For the... No. The choreographer's been with us in London for 3 weeks, and then when we arrived on the setup week, we had 1 week to put all of the shows on board. It was really challenging, but we managed to do it. And then the following week, we were just tidying up what needed to be tidied up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It sounds interesting.
And then it's just ongoing. It's an ongoing process.
How do you prepare yourself before a show?
Well, you do vocal warm-up. You need to prepare all of your costumes. You could do the vocal exercises that you can squeeze your cheeks together like this one, and you make a sound. Hum low notes, and then you start with some scales, and then you do tongue twisters.
You're in your cabin that you were. I was in there before, previously.
Sure.
And every day I used to hear the guy next to going, la, 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 la,
yes, you're not supposed to sing in your cabin. Yeah, Not to put. You can sing backstage where nobody hears you. Yeah, just not really kind to sing in your cabin.
Every day I would hear him doing
Yeah.
some sort of a tune or a high pitch something.
Yeah, you should try to practice a little bit every day. Keep your throat warm. Practice your studies. It's helpful to do it.
So it's
Yeah.
it's
Also
called
to
for.
take a rest. Like you could take a rest, but you should be doing some vocal exercises almost every day.
Do you guys drink or do anything special to help the throat, or nothing serious? Or
It does help, but also just a hot honey and
Cup of tea?
lemon, something like that. Sometimes a hot cup of tea helps. Yeah.
English cup of tea.
Yeah. Helps your throat. Yeah.
Do you say you're the leader of the group then? Of
Yeah,
course.
I've got a lot of experience, so
Yeah,
it's
I would
something I
presume.
really enjoy to do. I like to do the admin as well. I've got business administration diplomas and a diploma in business, and for
So
the
can I talk to
extra.
you next about help with my business?
Okay, yeah. So it's fun to do the programming, the scheduling, piecing things together, putting it together. I like to do that.
Oh, that's great, man. Excuse me. During the shows, I see some like miraculous costume changes and visuals. Can you tell me how does this happen? So
Well, we have to practice. If you're aware you have a quick change, you have to set your costume. It has to be ready to put on quickly. If you need help, the person that helps you has to know exactly when to help you, and it's timed, so you make the next change, so you know exactly how much time you have to change your costume. And if anything goes wrong, then you need a backup plan. You need to know what you could do if you didn't make a change. What's going to happen next? Do you come on late? Where exactly should you come on if you didn't make it?
So you're not wearing
You
like
have to
3-4
practice.
sets under you, right?
No, you can't do anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
Yeah.
letting them know that that's not how it really works. They have
Yeah.
like a guy there who they pay a little extra to work for the night, and he's like a dresser.
No, not at all.
They don't
We do
even
it
have these?
ourselves. Yeah.
Oh wow!
It
On the big
depends.
ships they have
Yeah,
dressers.
sometimes you could use a dresser. I haven't used one. We just dress each other.
Have you been on bigger ships? Or
Yes, I
Yeah,
have.
so you-
Yes,
okay.
but I've never had a dresser.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we
It's
just do it
preference.
ourselves. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So entertainment has quite a few big upsets during shows, on and off stage, obviously. Can you tell me something that maybe you've actually been through or experienced with all these years?
Yes, sometimes if you have a run-in with somebody, it could affect your show. It shouldn't, and you should both rise above it. And I've
Yes.
worked with performers who haven't managed to rise above it at all, and others that have. And at the end of the day, you have to do performance as usual. You can't let any upsets alter a performance in any way. So even if you don't like the person you're performing with, or if you don't agree with something, an opinion that they've had recently, you're still obliged to perform on stage as if nothing's happened, and
Yeah,
you
it's a
still
bit
need to
difficult,
have the eye contact, and because the audience can see if something's not right.
Of course, it's not
Yeah.
so easy, eh? Lights, action, camera, you're live, the show is going great, people are all involved. Someone falls.
Yeah, I've fallen before loads of times. I've slipped on dry ice. I've fallen on my face. You just have to. There's sometimes you have to get up. One time, last contract, I fell down on my face, and then I felt like I had to get up and just apologise to the audience and say sorry about that. I'm back on my feet now. I'm okay. And it breaks the ice a little bit. I don't suppose the mind obviously saw that I fell down, so you have to just say what's happened and then carry on.
Oh, jeez,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of cool. These incidents that happen. I've had a few in my days. I've seen some dancer dancing the thing that goes down. There's a name for it. I forgot.
Hydraulic
Yeah,
stage.
it didn't go down in time, or it got stuck, and you just see this go, whoop, and it just falls into this pit, and everyone's like, the whole stage, whoo,
Yeah.
and like everybody.
As long as you know as a performer that you're in a safe place, and what you can do to get off the stage is safe. Otherwise, you shouldn't make any risks at all. Because I
Yeah.
have had colleagues that have had accidents
Yeah, it's not
that
so
either
nice.
were their fault or weren't their fault. Just as health and safety always, it should be an environment where you know exactly how to be in a situation if something's quite not quite right.
Yeah, so but going back to if somebody does get hurt
Mm-hmm.
and they can't perform in the next couple shows, here there's a thing called blocking. I know that you guys call
That's
it blocking.
right.
So what is that?
Blocking is your placement. So if at the moment our show is blocked for 6, I've never done a show with 5. I would have just postponed the show.
Okay.
Because really we need all 6 performers
Of
on
course.
stage.
But in
Other
the
teams have done
normal-
blocking, but it doesn't really work because the costume changes and there should be 6 voices. It's better just to postpone the show.
Okay, but in a
until-
normal instance, in a normal ship with, let's say, 12 of you or a normal
Uh-huh.
proper full cast, what is actually blocking? Because maybe you can explain what it actually
Yeah,
does.
blocking is just your placement, so it's your choreographed placement throughout the performance. So even where you put your mic stand down, which one you pick back up, which entrance exit you take, which number. We'll have numbers from 1 to 5 each side of the stage, left and right, and you have to be on your number at a certain time. Otherwise, you could crash with another performer,
Yeah.
or you might not be seen properly, or it might not look aesthetically correct. So it is important, just little things like to remember exactly your number, what number you are,
Okay.
and if you're upstage or downstage.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So, working on the cruise ship on land and on the cruise ship compared to land, what's the difference? Is there a big difference?
Well, yes, I've done. I was a fly-out act for hotels, which I enjoyed when I arrived, but it was very tiring. You have to take an early flight. You have to be at the airport very, very early in the morning, sometimes at 4 o'clock, to be ready for a 5:30 flight or a 6:30 flight. Then you might have a show even that night. So by the time you arrive, for example, I flew out to Cyprus. By the time you arrive there, you have to pick up a car, drive to the hotel, drive to the venue for a sound check, and you don't have really the voice to sing Nessun Dorma.
You're still dead.
So yeah, so that's not ideal, and there's a lot of driving involved, driving from one venue to the next. Sometimes it could be 2.5 hours if you're driving from one side of the island to the other. So I didn't love it, and I found it quite tiring to fly in those conditions and then perform. I mean, it was fun. I didn't regret to do it. It was something different, but I much prefer to perform on board a cruise, because you always have your audience, regardless how many are there. It's still your audience if they've turned up or not. And there's no commute to work. You already arrived, so that takes out the pressures. I hate the idea to commute anywhere, especially for work. That's something I didn't enjoy when I was at home, if I was temping or something like that. So I much prefer just to wake up and you're ready for work, and you have your environment where you're not at work, and you have your environment where you are.
Yeah, that's why we're here for so long.
That's why we're here for a long time, and sometimes you have a program where you can have free time, and sometimes you can organize I organize my schedule myself, so I can decide if I want where I absolutely have to be at work ready for this time, or where I could take some time free and come back. You can manage your time yourself very well, especially if you're proactive.
That's a great
You
point.
can have more free time if you're proactive. If you're not proactive, it's not really good for you to not turn up for things. You
That's
need to
excellent,
be around. Yeah.
Your most challenging part of your job?
Keeping a balance, it depends on how good your the rest of my team are. They're all really good this cruise, this contract. Generally, I'm really happy to work with teams. I have had just 1 or 2 teams in the past, in the last, in the 14 years I've been at sea, have been so tricky. Generally, the larger groups tend to go off in groups of 2 or 3. Because there's just too many people. A team of 6 you can all manage to get on, so that doesn't really separate. That should be fine. But a larger team, like a team of 15 or more, that's tough, because you just go off in groups. You're not one really big team unless you're at stage, so that's not so easy really to manage, because people have various changes of opinion. And yeah, that's why I quite like the small group. There's no drama.
So let's go to something funny. Your most funniest moment at stage. Or on stage
Well,
it's
anything could happen.
happened? What's your most
Yeah.
exciting thing that you've won't
Uh,
forget that happened? Like your
Yes,
shoe fell off, or I
all
don't know.
kinds of things. It could be any little detail could throw you. Sometimes, anything could happen if it's not exactly right. Even a costume could you could have a wardrobe malfunction. You could have maybe you didn't get the right costume on in time. Maybe you didn't get the right costume on altogether. Falling down, tripping over. There's so many things that could happen, and then you of course have to either try to disguise it or glaze over what's
But
happened.
sometimes they don't even notice because they don't know
Sometimes
difference.
they don't notice. Yeah,
so that's
yeah.
okay.
I have had some times where I've actually fallen a few times. Yeah,
Oh, that
and
must
then you
be
have to try and
so
laugh it off.
crazy, I'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, beep.
Yes. Yeah. You have to keep your composure and carry on.
All right. So,
Yeah.
could you offer any sort of good feedback to people out there who actually would like to try to do this? What would you let them like to
Yeah,
tell
I'd
them?
say go for it. Be prepared to work, but you do have time eventually to go out and explore. You have time to volunteer for excursions if you'd like, and you do that free of charge. So you can volunteer and go on an excursion for the day, which I'd thoroughly recommend. But really, if you're proactive and if you're studious, then you certainly have more rewards. If you just turn up for something and your heart's not really in it, it's not for you. You have to really be focused on exactly what your goals are, what you would like to do. And if you're motivated, even just 80% motivated, you're going to have a really good time. If you're not, and if you want to be somewhere else, it's not for you.
Yeah.
It's really not for you. You need to be focused during the time that you're here.
Okay, the big question that I ask everybody, and I've had some crazy stories. Can you tell me the most shocking thing that you've ever encountered or seen at sea? Something that you haven't forgotten, that you will never forget.
Well, I heard about a crew member that had 14 boyfriends while she was on board at sea, and those were the ones that we knew about in a 5-month period.
Wow.
And nobody seemed to mind.
This is I never thought I'd
Yes,
get a story like
14. Those were the ones that we'd counted and could account for.
this. A little male gigolo.
Those were the. So it is a place where you can do as you please. It seemed that nobody even got hurt because it was just very
Wow.
cleverly, almost choreographed. Who was next? And
It's at 3 o'clock. We have this one. Maybe at
who
7.
knows? I don't think that. But this wasn't at the same time.
Yeah, of course.
These were
but,
just short,
sh-
very short relationships,
wow,
but not at the same time.
so it's possible to become a male gigolo on board these ships,
Yes,
guys.
exactly. Especially because there's not really enough to go around.
Yeah.
And if you even, here's one thing you might not know about. So if you would consider yourself moderately attractive at home, you are hot on board. So you will arrive at a 10. Like if you consider yourself, I'm not so bad looking, I'm not so confident with the girls. If you get on board, you've got first night. That's you, because there's a lot of people on the hunt. You don't really know for sure, but they are. They're going to want to come to talk to you. So for your
100%.
confidence, you'll definitely feel that you have that you had a brilliant confidence boost working on cruise lines.
That's so true, Martin.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, do you have your own show? And
I do. I performed it last night. My show's called Savoir Faire.
Okay.
And that gives me a great opportunity to perform things I'd like to do, but at the same time you have to choose a genre, and you have to choose the music that you know that the audience would recognize at least. So you should really do something that they would recognize and they can join in with. You can't throw in a couple, one or two that they might not know so well, but it's really you're performing for others. You're not performing for yourself. So choose a show, or choose choose genre of music that you on paper that the guests will enjoy. Yeah.
And do you by any chance have a website, or your videos are online with it you'd like that if you would like to let them know if they want to view or subscribe? You have anything online?
Not really up to date. Not
Okay.
really. I've quite enjoyed just to make a living by singing, and that seems to be enough for me. I haven't really got any publicity.
Okay.
I had in the past. I've tried different things, but I suppose any kind of publicity, if you did find me, would be dated now. So it's
no.
probably time for an update.
Yes, with pleasure. We'll
Yeah.
have to give you a hand
Okay,
with that. We'll help
great,
you out with
great.
that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
It was great. You
Thanks.
really taught us a few things, even me.
Yes. Okay,
And
good.
I think it's time to think about this gigolo business, ladies and gentlemen.
Who knows? Yeah.
It's very
You could be a
interesting.
professional.
Yes, a professional gigolo. Thank you so much and have a
Okay,
great day.
thank you.
Cheers,
Thank
Martin.
you. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Crew Life at Sea podcast. Want any of your questions answered? Send us an email at crewlifeatseainfogroup.com. Thank you for being a part of our adventure at sea.